If you've been looking for a unique stitch for your next project, well, I have just the stitch for you to try. I'm pretty sure it'll become your new favorite stitch because honestly, it only took a single swatch for it to become mine. The herringbone double crochet is a reversible stitch, which makes it really great for projects like scarves and blankets, where you'll see both sides. Best of all, it has only a single row repeat, so there's basically no memory required. Hey there, I'm Brittany, your guide to better crochet and knitting. Let's get on with this week's tutorial and learn the herringbone double crochet, but first things first, I want to direct your attention to the video description because that's where you'll find the link to the written instructions. Go ahead and create your slip knot first. And for this stitch pattern, we can chain any number of stitches. So you can use this for pretty much any project. Any number will do. I'm going to chain 20, so I have a swatch that's big enough for you to sort of get the full effect on how the stitch comes together. If you're making a practice swatch, that's a good number. Otherwise, chain however many you want for your project, however wide you need it to be. Just go ahead and make your chains, take your measurement, and we'll proceed from there. Then once your turning chain is the length that you want it to be, we're going to add 2. So add 2 chains. These are our turning chains. We're going to do this at the beginning of every single row, and it will count as a stitch. So keep that in mind. And I'm going to flip my chain over so you can see the back bump of the chain. This is where I like to work my stitches. It's just a personal preference thing. Find your third chain from the hook. So I've got 1, 2, and this is my third one. That's where I'll work my first herringbone double crochet. Now don't be fooled by the name because we're really not double crocheting, but it does look like it. So yarn over first and then insert your hook into that third chain. Then you'll yarn over, pull through the stitch. So everything from here is the same as a double crochet, but here is where it differs. We're going to take this loop and pull it through this one. Then we'll yarn over and pull through 1. Then we'll yarn over and pull through the remaining 2. Not very much like a double crochet, but when you're looking at it from here, it kind of does have that appearance. Now the repeat for actually this entire stitch pattern is really easy. We're just going to repeat that stitch over and over, and that's all there is to it. So let's look at it a few more times. So find your next chain. I'll stick my hook into there, yarn over, pull through that chain, and then I will pull through that first loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's all we have to do for this first row. We're just repeating this sequence, this stitch, over and over. A couple things I want to point out though, because this stitch is a little different, right? The motions are completely different from what we're used to working with, particularly at this point here where we have to get this yarn over through this first loop. What I do, you can't really see it in the background, is I use my middle finger and I hold on to the chain. I'm kind of pulling down on it. See how the tension sort of increases on those loops? And that's how I sort of get it through there, twisting my hook and pulling it through. You'll definitely find a rhythm as you practice the stitch a little bit more. It gets more natural, but you do have to pay attention at first because your instinct is to double crochet or to do those stitches that you're sort of committed to your muscle memory. And this one is a little bit different. All right, now, so when you get to the end of your chain, we're going to herringbone double crochet in the last chain, just as we've seen before. Just one quick thing to note too, sort of leaning in the direction that you're crocheting. That's what it should look like at this point. Now we will chain 2 to start off the next row. Go ahead and turn your work. And I mentioned at the beginning that we're counting this chain 2 as a stitch. So because of that, I am not going to work in this stitch right here. So basically right where that chain 2 is coming from, I'm going to jump over to the next one and I'll herringbone double crochet there. I'm catching both loops of that stitch or of the V and working the stitch just as we've seen. One thing I want to point out really quick is that it's leaning towards my hook again. It's always going to do that. And because we are flipping this back and forth, that's what gives it that herringbone appearance. We can't really see it too much now with these 2 rows, but the idea is that it's going to lean this way and this way. Then we'll come back this way and go up that way. So you might find yourself wondering, can I do this in the round? And the answer would be not exactly, because we're not turning the work when we're crocheting in the round. So we're not going to get that back and forth lean. You'll get a consistent lean that sort of goes in the same direction every single round. Now when you get to the end of your second row, don't forget that chain 2 counts as a stitch, and that means you have to work your last herringbone double crochet in that second chain. So looking at it from here, this is my first chain, and this little lump here is my second chain. You'll just stick your hook into that chain and work your herringbone double crochet. And that'll complete your row. That's also the repeat for the stitch pattern. So we'll just chain 2, we'll turn our work. I'm not going to work here. I'll work in that next stitch and herringbone double crochet. So to finish your projects with this stitch, you're just going to repeat that second row. You'll find that on the instructions page. You'll just repeat that second row until your project measures the length that you want it to, and then you'll fasten off as normal. And now I would really love to hear from you. In the comments section, will you please tell me what types of projects you would like to create with this stitch? I would love to write a pattern for this particular stitch pattern so you can really put these new skills to use. And I want to create the projects that you actually want to crochet. So tell me in the comments section what you would like to crochet using this stitch, and I will use that directly to help me guide that decision in which project to make.